fire. Don't let anyone tell me otherwise, baby. That's right, girl. We'll be fine, whatever we'll be, and you ought to know by now. But your fears will be the same no matter where we're from.
Hiya. Not the traditional opening. This one starts with a trigger warning. A trigger warning for, well, pedants. I think that's too harsh a word. People who care about facts. Not pedants. During today's story, I will talk and mention an author called Tom Stoppard. And in fact, it's Tom Sharp. So when you hear the words Tom Stoppard, mentally substitute the word Stoppard for Sharp. Tom Sharp, Tom Sharp, Tom Sharp. You will think Tom Sharp. Got that? Alright, let's get on with it. Good morning, it's Lakewatch. Of course it is, don't make videos about anything else. So yeah, welcome to Lakewatch. With me and a commando hat. No controversy there. It's a commando hat, that's what it is, it's what it does. What am I going to talk about today? I'm going to tell you one of the funniest stories that I know, and it's about another important influence on me. And the story has been embellished over years, but the facts remain the same, true. Where it varies from the truth is for comedic effect. But the end of the story, which is the funniest bit, is 100% true. All right, let's go. We're at about 10 o'clock on the lake. So over there is the gym, and right over here, that's our house. So, did you ever meet somebody new in a group of friends that you know and love, and you just got the sense that they didn't like you? I remember one time when I told this story that I'm going to tell today, that it was at such an occasion, and everybody on the table was a really good friend. And but there was one guy there who's what's the words I'm looking for? A snotty wanker. He was quite posh. He's probably now actually the Tory MP for Buggery and Filth West. You know, a cabinet minister for being a bit fucking rapey and a pervert. So, and when I told this story, he said he just leaned forward and he said, "Oh yes, it sounds like a Tom Stoppard novel," but in a way that he meant he didn't believe me, you know. So, but this actually happened. It happened as I'm going to tell you it happened. And it was when I was doing those 5 O-levels in a year. And I met a chap who was my English teacher. And he was called Robert Atkins. And another geezer who changed my life. And, you know, spotted a talent that I didn't know I had. And encouraged it and so on, and indulged me, and in fact got an A in English for the O-level. It was the only A that I got. So, you know, that's the power of a great teacher. But he was also very funny. He ran one of the big amateur dramatic companies in our area, in Hyde actually. And he lived in a posh area called Rummeday. But I'd actually knew his son when I was 16. And his son, Rick, was also a top guy. Introduced me to the Blues Brothers. Yeah. So, I'd been to their house. So, when I arrived for an English lesson and it was him, he knew me. And the other thing is, and I think this is where the guy got the Tom Stoppard reference from, because Tom Stoppard used to write books about being a college lecturer, I think. I actually had to have extra lessons because I was late starting and I was doing 5 in a year. So I did end up sharing lessons with groups that were there on vocational courses, and I did in fact have one lecture a week with a group that was called Meat 3. They were butchery students, and maybe that phrase did occur in one of those Tom Stoppard novels, but it was based on reality. I think, all butchery students who had to do some sort of academic lessons, were called things like Meat 3, and Meat 3 was one group that I shared a lesson with, and it was hilarious because they weren't interested, couldn't give a shit, and they're all 17-year-olds who wanted to be butchers. And so I really enjoyed them because I tended to get quite a bit of attention from Bob, and also because he used to take the piss out of the meatheads and they didn't know that he was taking the piss, but I did. So I used to chuckle my way through most of the lessons. Anyway, I need to point out this fact that because I was older than the others, he referred to me as Mr. Fisher, which I think was just another subtle way of taking the piss out of the rest of them. Mr. Fisher. Anyway, the start of the lesson with Meat 3, you'd walk in and he'd have written, a complicated word on the chalkboard, and then he'd pick on someone to say what the word meant. And I walked in one day and he'd written the word theocracy on the board. And I thought, that's for me, this is too hard for Meat 3. And so I sat down and he walked in. He always had one of those transparent coffee cups, but it was only ever had hot water in it. So he put his cup down and he said, Mr. Fisher. And he pointed at the board and he says, both my wife and I scrambled around the cupboard of our vocabularies to find a word that we were fairly confident would stump you. And that word is on the board, and the word is theocracy. So would you stand up and explain, for the benefit of your peers, the meaning of the word theocracy? Now, Iran Contra had just happened, or was happening, so I knew what it meant. So I stood up and I said, a theocracy is a political regime based on a religious ideology. Such a regime would be Ayatollah Khomeini's in Iran. And he'd been sipping on his coffee and he put it down. And he glared at me. He said, Mr. Fisher, how on earth do you know the meaning of that word so well and so quickly? And so I said to him, that's because I'm brilliant. To which he replied, super quick, and how have you achieved this brilliance, Mr. Fisher? Have you been perhaps rubbing yourself with clever women? And I had, but that wasn't the point. That destroyed me. I was in tears. I was helpless. It was the timing of it, the phrase itself, the whole concept. It was comedy gold. And I looked around at my peers and they had not understood a word of it. And that just made it funnier. So yeah, Bob Atkins, he actually did a lot more for me over that year. He was a fantastic guy. And another person who comes into your life at random makes a huge difference. And for that, I owe him the continued telling of this fabulous story. And also my eternal gratitude. Gratitude's a bit of a theme this week, isn't it? Not a bad theme to have, is it? All right, that's it for today. Bye.
Yeah, yeah.